the missile launcher. Big damage, benefits from both heavy weapons and demo expert, muckle expensive and rare ammo, and extreme potential for self-termination. Sounds like a good time, no? So meet Sandman. As in Sam Missile and Sandman. You get? You don't. You know, whatever. We all know what happens next. World? Whoosh. Wife?
Dead.
Son? Mood? Indifferent. When I walked out of the vault, I put an extra level into agility and scrapped everything I could find in Sanctuary, so I could establish the world's #1 furniture company. In terms of wooden shelves and rubber mats. After depleting all my materials, I left Sanctuary at level 10. I did this so that now, the traders' loot tables would include barely acceptable amounts of rockets for sale. I could have leveled myself up all the way to level 39 to fully upgrade the launcher. But that's no fun, that would make all the progression go away. This did mean that, to fully upgrade a rocket launcher into a missile launcher, meaning that it shot guided projectiles, I would have probably finished the game before getting to a high enough level. Therefore, I thought of a compromise, but we'll get to that when it becomes relevant. Now I needed to get a launcher, and I knew just where to find one, at Backstreet Apparel, which was conveniently en route to Diamond City, where this hyper-intimidating specimen of a man bought himself some more rockets. While leaving Diamond City, a dog got killed by some turrets, which dropped a super OP pipe weapon. Which I couldn't use, naturally. Which was like a complete and total bummer, let me tell you. After this, I made my way to Goodneighbor, where world's toughest dog tanked a direct hit from a mini nuke and lived. This was followed by me having the most uncomfortable shopping experience ever. Having collected 14 rockets so far, I blew up 3 raiders that were too irresistible not to blow up, and marked Hippie HQ 4, whenever. Following a whole bunch of shop resetting, I had 41 rockets to my name, so I proceeded to help out the Minutemen, who might be siding with this time around. The first thing I did was miss, somehow, followed by me blowing up a traffic light and a raider as collateral damage. After this, I hit another raider direct, yet he was still looking good enough for an open casket funeral. The inside of the museum was luckily pretty open, so the likelihood of me self-sploding were pretty low. Blowing my way through the raiders, I shot at 2 of them, which did nothing, blew them up for realsies, backed that ass up from a budget gladiator larper,
Bagels here.
and missed another one of my shots.
Free money.
After this, I went outside, completed my suit with the best parts of the power armor that was just standing there, grabbed some money, and felt precious minutes of my life draining away with every shot fired at singular raiders there. When the axolotl crawled out of its hole, I was surprised that, despite having a few damage perks already in place, it managed to tank 3 rockets before going down. At the end of it all, I'd pissed away some 20 odd rockets, which I'd have to replace. So I stripped every corpse I could see, set up a water purifier, and failed at building my own rocket merchant, because apparently only the highest level trader would sell me those.
I've had word from a settlement asking for help.
Speaking
Still
of
hoping there are many
great,
out there.
I needed to help out a settlement to get Preston off my back. So I went to a satellite array where I was leisurely dealing with some raiders, where I got hit by deja vu and ran inside the building just in time to not get exploded by a mole rat suicide bomber. Thank God mole rats can't open doors. Inside the bunker, it was uncomfortably cramped, so I was being real careful to not shoot a rocket at my own feet. Annoyingly, the raiders had a dog, which wouldn't let go of my ass, so, running to the exit, I created just enough distance to take care of it. Other than that, there was a cluster of raiders that died, I think. I couldn't really tell with a fire extinguisher exploding and obscuring what was surely a satisfying bit of carnage. But with the satellite array taken care of, I had a lot of stuff to sell, and another settlement quest completed as well. Hey, that rhymed. Now it was high time to upgrade my power armor, with a fresh coat of paint and a modest improvement to its durability and protection. And after buying heaps more rockets, I went to Vault 114 to rescue Nick and push along the story. Not because I loved my son or anything, he could die in a rocket explosion for all I cared.
We call this foreshadowing.
Down in the subway, the triggermen had no idea what they were in for, as I managed to stealthily dispatch of no less than 5 of them, before one of them figured out who'd been exploding all of his friends, who was in turn transformed into a closed casket funeral case. You'd also better believe that this power armor ain't coming off for the entirety of this run. Well, you wouldn't if your life was dear to you, that is. With me having elbowed my way through the underground, I entered the vault, where one guy with a baseball bat was violently thrown backwards when he ate a rocket. Further down, I made sure that a legendary triggerman was extra dead by forcing a hyper rocket down his throat, blew the legs off of his friend, and made a really risky play, which, in retrospect, I really shouldn't have made, to disarm one of the triggermen. I'm gonna be real honest here. Melee enemies are usually a pretty big joke, but during this run they were the scariest thing ever, as they went for a mutually assured destruction doctrine where I had to make some real risky plays to get them off my back. Moving on, I reached Dino. You know, I recalled him as being pretty tough compared.
Oh.
With Nick freed, I leveled up, allowing me to attach a triple shot module to my rocket launcher. But before we could get going on that fun stuff, I'd first have to make my way out of the vault. Which was easier said than done for sure, because this place was really cramped, which resulted in me blowing myself up for the first and definitely not the last time. I'm honestly surprised I already managed to last this long. When I got to the mob boss, I made it about halfway through his speech before realizing, why am I even listening to this crap? And there they went. Before speaking with Nick, I upgraded the rocket launcher, made it longer, and gave it a paint job to better match my power armor. Because one must remain fashionable, even in the post-apocalypse. Following this, I went to Nick, went to Kellogg's house, needed a key, said screw the key, needed the key anyways, desk bombed, got the key, entered the house, took what was rightfully mine because of reasons, and tracked Kellogg to Fort Hagen. You know, you never quite realize how close range a lot of the main quest line really is, until you do something like this. I, once again, had to try really hard not to get blown myself. He said as he immediately went for a plain suicidal shot right after. With the upstairs cleared out, I headed downwards, patiently waited for a synth to open a door so I could get a collateral, and was stunned that another one didn't give a damn, so I told him to open wide. Further down, I immediately targeted the melee man, followed by a few loose wires repeatedly detonating my rockets. Moseying ever onwards, I direct hit one fool before putting on my brown pants as I fortunately missed a point-blank shot on a synth that appeared right in front of me. Will I ever remember that a synth appears there? Who knows? But that day was not that day. After ransacking the kitchen like the glut I am, I blew up a synth patrol, after which one last rocket cleared the building out. The second sin didn't even see it coming. When I got to Kellogg, I once again decided I have the power, and didn't even listen to him. So I shot him in the face, which didn't even kill him. So I blasted a second critted one in there to make sure he wouldn't walk away a second time. And that it did. I'm not sure there's anything salvageable left from that hat. Oh look, there's still a bit with brain texture over there, instead of sludge like all the rest. Yeah, I'll be taking that. Heading outside, the Brotherhood had arrived, with a bunch of vertebrates just begging for Sam Man to shoot a Sam at them. But I was still aeons away from being a high enough level to unlock the targeting computer. So I decided if I can fork out 10,000 caps, worth around 200 rockets, I could just console it in. How else could I make a video about a missile launcher if the launcher didn't shoot missiles? Problem was, those rockets were draining my coffers, so I needed to get some dosh. Well, time to bust your friendly local chem dealers. So I walked into a bar, threatened the barkeep, shot a rocket at him, exploded him good, grabbed a note about a chem deal, waltzed over there, tossed a rocket at him like it were nothing, and nabbed all the goods for myself. After selling most of the goods, I had enough money for the device. So I removed the caps in 2 goes, since the game couldn't count to 10,000, and actually turned the rocket launcher into a missile launcher. Now I just needed a few more levels to pimp this thing out with a quad barrel. Well, the best way to get there was to just continue on with the main quest. So after casually talking about Kellogg's brain, we went to the memory den, skipped all the optional stuff, witnessed teleportation, and was sent to the glowing sea to get myself a teleporter. In the glowing sea, the missile launcher upgrade actually came in somewhat useful. I just wish I could say the same about it for most of the remaining run, since most of the encounters in the quest chain were confined indoors. Meaning that the fun gimmick of missile guidance would usually result in the missile hitting a wall, instead of behind the wall to kill someone. Talk about pay to lose. The most useful feature of this gimmick was the easy destruction of bugs. Yay! Okay, rant's over. So I went to Virtual, whom directed me to Green Tech Genetics for a Corsair chip, where, after making the front door greeters leave me the hell alone, my exact gripes with the missile launcher came into fruition. Constantly. Okay, now rant's over. Following some uncalled for, but you're getting it anyways, limb removal of several gunners, I for once blew my load all over the enemy's Rocket Man. Take that, you twat! Other than that glorious bit of vengeance, it was relatively smooth sailings as I rampaged through the rest of the building. You know, besides almost exploding myself on a few way too close by enemies here and there. When I moved to the top of the building, I realized that diplomacy was a myth, and blew my load all over the Corsair there as well, catching the gunners that were there in the splash zone in the process. After grabbing the Corsair chip for the teleporter, I went to the railroad, needed only a single missile to wipe out the greeting party, and proceeded to tie up some loose ends before decoding the chip myself. After all of that, and helping out some settlements in between, I was a high enough level to get the ultimate missile launcher drip, and installed the quad barrel. Next, I built a teleporter with the Minutemen.
Let's get down to business.
And made my way inside of the Institute. Here, I downloaded all their secrets, was directed to their leader, blew myself to Kingdom Come, lost 30 minutes of progress, blew him up without getting in the splash zone myself this time around, and made my way out of the now hostile Institute. Now it was time to stop neglecting poor Preston and his Minutemen and take over a stronghold to defend ourselves, and from which we could launch our offensive against the Institute. But along the way, I wanted to roleplay as a stinger launcher and blew up the first of soon-to-be-many vertebrates. Once I arrived at the fortress, it was being defended by the most fearsome enemy I could imagine. Melee enemies. So you better believe that I wouldn't let any of them get even remotely near me. I also got a little carried away with arcing my missiles through the sky for my own amusement. At the end of it all, I'd never seen so many Mylar bits just strewn around the place. But it sure was satisfying to eradicate them in this way. Their mom came along to beat her children for making such a ruckus, so I allowed her to join her children in the afterlife. With the fortress in our hands, Miss Crankslot came along to tell me about the armory containing artillery, which came in useful to not a single player ever. So we went down there, grabbed some money that was just sitting there on the floor, blew up Sarge the Sentry Bot before he could even fully activate, and unlocked artillery as a gimmick. The Institute, pissed off at their leader's death, decided that our build-up of strength would go there and no further, so they launched an offensive against our stronghold. I started the fight off by sniping a group of them that were just having a lovely get-together. During the siege, I also found out that the lock-on of the missile launcher didn't give a singular damn about opponents turning themselves invisible, which I would use to great effect throughout the entirety of this battle. I'd also put a decent enough amount of perk points into perception and upgraded my power armor to make me even better in VATS. So, whenever I wanted to see someone explode in glorious slow motion and up close, all I had to do was make it so. The high ground of the stronghold also came in pretty handy in combination with VATS, because whenever I got XCOM'd by missing high percentage shots, the missile would still explode near the target anyways, since the missile would still be traveling downwards to the ground nearby. After an extensive and drawn-out fight against the Institute, we were ultimately victorious. Now it was time to strike back at them, since Sturgis had found a way in due to that stuff I downloaded inside the Institute earlier. So I headed towards the CIT. But since I was in the neighborhood anyways, I might as well declare war on the Brotherhood, since shooting down a few vertebrates earlier wasn't enough of a transgression to warrant a war declaration apparently. Feeling very proud of my life choices, I made my way into an old water pipe, alone, and waded my way through a whole bunch of nasties infesting the really wide water pipe, which suited me just fine. When I crawled out of the water pipe, I teleported my peasant militia inside to serve as my meat shields, including number 1 peasant, Preston, whom gave me a device to increase the yields of the Institute's reactor. The peasant militia, as always, required me doing all the work for them. It's not like their pipe weapons and crank-a-yank laser muskets while wearing farm clothes would make much of a difference against the Institute's fully automatic laser weapons. At the bottom of old robotics, I got some sweet value out of my missiles when the enemy attempted to form the famed conga line formation. It didn't end well for them. Speaking of getting great value, it was pretty important to not keep pissing away all of my missiles, because I was running a tad low on them. The amount of missiles was below the triple digits. The horror! By the way, have you ever seen the Syntherillas fall in unison like that? How majestic! I also got one nasty headshot on one of the scientists. In the main lobby, I killed the Courser no prob, while one of the scientists attempted to defy the laws of physics and tried to run away from a missile homing in on his ass. While dealing with the entire lobby on my own, I lobbed a few missiles around here and there, and honorably shot a legendary synth in the back. After fancying my way through the main lobby, I tried to make my way to the reactor, when a scientist came running straight for me. It was self-defense, man! When I finally got to the reactor room, I blew a scientist so hard that he flew into the air and banged his head on a catwalk. This was followed by me creating another one in the face at gale force speeds, taking his head clean off. After that, I demonstrated who the superior rocketeer was, cleared out the last few synths that were still left, planted the charge, teleported away, and reduced the Institute to a hole in the ground. When all was said and done, Preston suggested that we take some time to revel in our victory. 2-3 seconds later say, "Aight, that's enough celebration, let's deal with the Brotherhood." So we made use of the artillery that we collected in the Stronghold's basement, and blew up their blimp. Who'd have thought that those artillery pieces would come in useful after all? The Brotherhood did not appreciate us pulling this epic prank on their airship, and brought all of their choppers over to the Stronghold to unbuckle their belts like an abusive alcoholic and lay a smackdown on us hilarious pranksters. It was a real shame for the Brotherhood that they had to deal with the world's deadliest SAM turret. All the while, they were ever so slowly hovering their way over to the Stronghold. It was at this point that my disappointment for the guidance system became immeasurable.
And my day is ruined.
By the time it could lock onto an enemy vertebrate, I could have also just as easily just have eyeballed it, and be pretty confident that I would still get a hit. Using a combination of VATS and lock-ons though, I ensured that not a single Brotherhood soldier even touched the ground. Well, not alive, that was. During the fighting, one vertebrate tried to kamikaze me, but luckily it fused right through me, allowing me to jump off the Stronghold right before it exploded. The last chopper was shot down using VATS, after which its burning wreck came crashing down right into a body of water, leaving me like 10 XP short of level 39 to craft the guidance system. How cruel of you, game. With both the Institute and the Brotherhood wiped out, I guess you can say that yes, you can beat Fallout 4 with only a missile launcher. Rocket launcher also would have done it. Thanks for watching.